I want to share the story of how I'm turning a book that I've written into a ministry. So a couple of years ago, I wrote a book called Communion with Christ. I've done a video called How I Wrote My First Book, Communion with Christ. And it's basically subtitled A Handbook on How to Abide in Him. It's a book that unpacks the Bible's teachings on how it is that we can have a deep and intimate walk with Christ. And it was born out of an experience where I myself longed to have a deeper walk with Jesus. I went on to try and understand how, study the material, compiled it, to put it together, and eventually produced the book Communion with Christ. As I, share the book, and as I sold the book, and as many people have bought the book, I received some very positive and surprising feedback of people who wanted more out of the book. I remember this young lady who I shared the book with, and she was saying, I wish the book was longer. And in my view, I'm like, I poured out everything into this book, trying to get it to you. And she's like, I really wish the book was longer, And it was because in her experience, obviously our walk with Christ is ongoing, and the experiences that we continue to face. And while the principles are truly powerful, that I believe, there are things that we face on a day-to-day basis which we could need more information on. I remember there was another brother as well, older brother than me, who were hiking one day and was sharing his reflections like, sir, I read the book, I enjoyed it so much, and I really feel you can do more. You can do this, you can do that. Why don't we do this and do that? He shared a bunch of feedback on his experience with the book. And at the time, I don't think I took it too hard, just because I'm like, no, I've written the book. I think the book is enough, And I've realized that sometimes the things that we make, there's this one speaker I like listening to. He says that every solution creates 10 more problems, right? So for example, if you buy yourself a pair of shoes, that's a solution that you've created, that your feet are covered. It creates a couple more problems in that now you have to maintain the shoe, now you have to wash the shoe, now you have to store the shoe, right? Now you have to put it somewhere. So those are problems that are created as a result of the solution that you've come up with. And this idea that every solution that you create creates 10 more problems, right? Or 10 more opportunities. And the book itself, as I wrote it, I felt was a solution to a certain experience that I was having and which some people are having. But many other experiences come up with that, right? Many other opportunities come up with that. And it became an opportunity for me to then turn the book into actual ministry. And I want to share how I'm doing that, how I'm building that. So there's this idea of building multiple sources of cascading value, right? And that there's low tiers of value and there's high tiers of value. I'm just going to share with you the building blocks of where I am with the building of the ministry itself. And a large part of it is a one-person ministry, and it's of necessity for reasons which will make sense as it continues. But the way I'm building it is that, so there's low tiers of value, right? So the book, if you think about multiple scales of value, where there's higher value and lower value, the book itself is a source of value on a certain level, and there's lower forms of value that could be useful and higher sources of value that could be useful, right? So the lower sources of value is, the bite-sized pieces of information, the short snippets of extracts, the small tips, small guides, small statistics, small pointers, small reminders, small encouragements, etc., right? And those I've built the social media pages for that, to create access or accessibility to those bite-sized pieces of information that we can just get on the go, and which are a certain reminder on the day. You wake up in the morning, a short devotional, a short note just to remind you in the day that, hey, Christ loves you, Christ is able to empower you, Christ encourages you, and so on, right? So that's the short forms of value. Those are things shared on social media pages, the Instagram, the Facebook, short encouragements, short punchy notes. The tier above that is articles, right? And I've got a newsletter, the Communion with Christ newsletter, that I've built around that, to say that expanding on those short form points or principles are long form articles that deal with a certain topic in some greater depth. So I've got an article on how to deal with failure. I've got an article on how to exercise faith, an article on mercy, an article on various topics that relate to our day-to-day experience of working with Christ. And those are shared weekly, or I try to share them weekly. But those are shared on the Communion with Christ newsletter, which is like a blog, but also shared out in email to the people who have subscribed to the Communion with Christ newsletter. Right? So whereas the social media stuff is accessible to everyone, the exclusive content of the email, of the newsletter, is sent out by email. So it's a bit longer, it's a bit more time consuming, maybe 10 minutes to read or 5 minutes to read. But it really goes in depth so that one has a real grasp of, the topic at hand. Then there's higher pieces of value, right? which is, these ebooks that I've written. I've got an ebook out called Unlocking the Word, right, which is a practical guide to Bible study. I've got another small ebook coming out as well called Connect, right, a model for deeper devotions. And these are, slightly longer than the articles and take a bit more time to read. Maybe it's about 10 pages, maybe it's about 40 pages, but unpack the more in-depth, practical guides and models and how-tos on how to deal with specific topics, expanding more than the articles. And I hope you see the pattern, right? Greater sources of value. The book then itself is a higher, more in-depth version of value, which will take obviously much more longer to read, much more time to consume. So it's going to take you a couple of weeks to read, a couple of months. I encourage people to read the book slower because I really believe that's how you gain the most value out of it. So there's short form social media stuff, there's bite-sized pieces, there's the articles, weekly posted on the newsletter, which you can subscribe to. Then there's, the ebooks or the free resources, basically. Some of these are ebooks, and then it includes, video content, sermons, workshops that I've recorded, and so on, right? Which are available on YouTube and so on. And then there's the longer ebooks, right? Longer format. The ebooks, which are, Unlocking the Word, another one called Connect. And these are a bit longer, and more in depth. Then there's the book itself, Commune with Christ, the book. And that's, paid product. And you can get, either as a hard copy or as a soft copy. And that goes into much more considerable depth, right? And it's obviously much more value that a person is extracting out of it. Beyond that, then, there are more in-depth, access to the material and resources with this, like live presentations, live workshops, seminars, sermons, etc., which are by invitation. But I'm working on, presenting them such that it's accessible on offer, right? Where, one can just book an appointment to have those dates set. But at the moment, it's just by invitation and direct content. So people email me, say, we'd like the material, we'd like you to come present for a day, or for a full day, or for a morning. And I'm trying to cascade that, which is the part of the process that I'm still building. We try and cascade the material or the live material in such a way that there's a morning, half day, full day, weekend, and week long, unpacking of the material, so that there's deeper levels of value. Where if people are only available for like half a day, you can invite, it's half a day of value, full day's value, a weekend, right? And then a week long. And each of those go into much more depth, obviously, much more practical and much more in-depth material. So various workshops and so on. What I'm hoping you see is a simple way in which I'm breaking down the material of the book and turning it into a ministry. And I'm sharing this so that you can be able to see how, if there's any area of your life where this can be valuable, then you can do the same, right? So it's the short form material of value, punchy, one-liners, quotes, etc., just to encourage throughout the day. Longer form content, articles, newsletters, blog posts, and some video presentations on YouTube platforms. More in depth, which is the ebooks, the Unlocking the Word, Connect. Those are the names of the ebooks. The book itself, Commune with Christ, and I'm working on one or two others, which I'm really excited for, which go into much more considerable depth than one has to pay for those books, because of the shipping and handling and actual physical products. Then it's the workshops, right, which is the day workshop or half day, full day, weekend, and week long, right? And those will be split with the physical live workshops and then the virtual, workshops. The last, which is the one I'm most excited about, is the actual subscription, a Commune with Christ subscription, which is like a private group where we have weekly cell meetings, and this is the plan. Just pray for me that it actually becomes a reality. Subscriptions where it's exclusive group, and we just are able to have live interactions every week. We unpack a certain topic together. We unpack any questions or comments. We have group fellowship and so on. And that's to offer much more value on an ongoing basis, in a private or exclusive setting on subscription, or membership, rather, if I use the term membership. And those are multiple sources of value that are born out of a single book. And maybe I'll just summarize it by this point to say that every source of value is 10 times much more value in terms of its potential. So every book has 10 times more potential than what it could be beyond that. Even a blog post has 10 times more potential than what it could be. A tweet a thought that you share has 10 times more potential than what it could be. And I always encourage that, and that's what I'm building with Communion with Christ in practical terms. A tenfold expounding, turning it into a simple book, into an actual ministry in the efforts to give more value. I really hope that, it can be a source of encouragement. What I'll do is I'll share a link as well so that you can get access to all of these things as I build them. Some of them are already live, most of them are already live, and some of them I'm going to keep adding as I continue. But let me know what you think, man. If you've ever, maybe can I ask you this? If you've ever interacted, if I've ever interacted with you in any of my live workshops, a book you've read or whatever, maybe share a quote or a comment rather, not a quote. Share a comment, a reflection, and feedback in the comments, just so that I can know if there's areas where I might also need to improve. But more than that, the important thing to share with you is that you can turn a simple idea from a book into a whole ministry, a whole organization, to multiple sources of value. Because value, everything that's a source of value, every solution has 10 times what it could be in terms of its opportunity. Just wanted to share that. I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. Wishing you all the best, and we'll catch each other on the other side. Much love.